One of the more exciting games of the season, especially when you have a new manager, you've got some youth you really want to see, is an EFL Cup game. And that doesn't mean that it's like the most exciting match. But during a season which is pretty long, and I get it, we have a lot of games, it can actually be quite fun to break it up with almost a completely different team starting, and a lot of people getting excited about the youth that is coming through. That is the opportunity that Liverpool and Arne Slot have when they approach St Mary's on Wednesday evening against Southampton in the EFL Cup. Interesting tie, this one, because a couple of weeks ago we obviously struggled, or didn't struggle, we kind of struggled against Southampton. We got that 3-2 win in the end, but they made it a little bit difficult for us. They knew the tactics to try and block up some of what Arne Slot was trying to do, and essentially to frustrate our first team. So what is it that they will do against our second, maybe even third string, depending on how you see the different players? Well, having just lost their manager, Russell Martin, I do often wonder, new manager bounce? Or is it kind of the, hey, we're free now, we can do... There's a lot of different approaches that people can have to this. And as much as I would say, there is the possibility of a new manager bounce, and I think Southampton almost will certainly score in this game, I also think that some people have to keep their powder dry. And you have to know that as much as it is lovely to have a great cup run, avoiding relegation should probably be Southampton's priority, especially if you're sacking your manager at this point in the season. Your intent is clearly to stay in the Premier League. You cannot sack your manager and not at least set out the minimum requirement of staying in the Premier League. So Southampton don't find themselves in a great position, but they do find themselves in this competition and playing a really big team and with an opportunity to begin to revive their season. In fact, I actually thought a couple of weeks ago when we did play them, it was kind of an opportunity for them to do the same. But it may also be an opportunity for a lot of injured or returning players to get back into this Liverpool side. And it may also be an opportunity for some of those youth guys to stake a bit of a claim in terms of the rotation that Liverpool currently have, especially with some of the injuries that we're seeing at the moment. Now, talking about my starting 11, I definitely think Kelleher will start. Obviously, there's a lot of questions around how long he'll stay at the club at the moment. There's a lot of questions around who else would buy him if he was to leave Liverpool, who Liverpool would allow him to go to, but he's clearly a world-class goalkeeper, or at least on his trajectory to be that world-class goalkeeper. I don't think I have to justify picking Kelleher. I don't think I have to justify resting Alisson for a game. What we do have to justify, though, is how you pick your back line. Considering our limited options at fullback, I kind of considered maybe playing a slightly stronger, in inverted commas, back line with at least a Van Dijk or... it's probably a Van Dijk in there, but I don't know if Van Dijk will start away at St Mary's. First of all, it's not really the kind of game you want to do that. Secondly, you probably do want to get some minutes into the legs of someone like Jarell Quansah and Joe Gomez. But at the same time, I also do wonder if Liverpool want to rest a Gomez or they kick a Gomez out to somewhere like right back and Trent doesn't play a game like this. That will put emphasis somewhere else on the field, but, it is what it is. I think, especially with Arne Slot, I appreciate whatever it is that he picks, but he doesn't seem like the kind of manager who overly enjoys playing players out of position. He tends to like the profile, play them within their profile, and very much stick within the bounds that they are given. That's fair enough. I'm very much for that, play to a player's strengths, right? But it means that in a completely opposite way to the way that, you might have seen Milner at left back or right back under Klopp, you're much less likely to see that under Slot, I think. So I probably think we see Trent starting at one of the fullback positions. I think we'll probably see Robertson starting at the other, just purely because of lack of options right now. It's not great to have to play another one of these games, and they probably will provide some support for the likes of Quansah and Gomez. There was a shout from the Red Men that maybe Amara Nalo, who has been on the bench for a couple of games, I think he was on the bench for the Newcastle game, was around a little bit obviously in the pre-season and has been sort of milling around as a captain at Liverpool and a good influence since he joined us from London, might start this one. I'm not against it. I just think it's a really good shout. And these kind of games are for that kind of thing. And if Southampton are going to rotate themselves, then I'm all for it, which actually means you might not see Quansah or Gomez. You might see Quansah and Nalo, or maybe Nala and Gomez. I think you want one more experienced player in there. But that also speaks to the fact that immediately ahead of them, you are probably going to have Endo, someone who's very experienced, very good at dropping into the back line, and a good ball carrier. It's good ball carrier in the sense that he brings it out and then it goes to someone very quickly, and he can basically just get it, move it, get it, move it, carry it up, go. And it's safe in his possession, is what I'm trying to say. Immediately alongside him, and this is kind of the point that I saw on social, A lot of guys this week haven't played for the under-21s. They've been rested, and that means they're probably going to get an opportunity to play in this game against Southampton. One of them was Tyler Morton, another one was Trainiani, another one of them, in fact, I think it was Dan's who was the other name on that list. Let me just check my notes to make sure I'm correct. Yeah, it was Dan's and Norris as well. So there's 4 players in there who haven't played in the under-21s this week. I'm all for starting Nyoni. I really want to see more of him, especially in this double pivot and especially in that role. I think it's going to be quite a physical midfield from Southampton. I think that's where they're going to try and batter us. So I kind of almost want to see Tyler Morton in there, especially as Tyler is kind of on the fringes of the squad, almost just one slight step ahead of Trainiani. As good as Nyoni's been, I think we should probably see Morton this evening. It does lead me to ask, if you've got Endo and then you've got Nyoni, do you want Curtis there? Or could you play Tyler Morton in a slightly more attacking position and maybe drop Nyoni a little deeper, or go the other way around, obviously with that rotation that Slot has in midfield, that sort of works anyway? Or would you put Curtis in there, someone who's able to get a foot on the ball, able to carry it forward, really good manager of the ball, really good manager of games, and very often is the one that flexes for Liverpool in most of these situations? I won't be against either. Personally, just out of variation, and because if we're going to play the rest of these youth guys, I'd love to see Nyoni, I'd love to see Morton, but you're probably going to see one rotated for the other, and you're probably going to see the game switched up like that. So it'll be Endo, Morton, and Jones, and I think we'll see Nyoni come on later. Out on the wings, I doubt that we see Mo Salah in this game. As much as Mo Salah obviously wants to score as many goals as possible for Liverpool, Liverpool have got a lot of big games coming up in the next couple of weeks, and obviously it's been a very long run for us. If you look at our matches immediately after Southampton, we visit Tottenham on Sunday. That's a really difficult game. Tottenham have been in great form recently. Obviously, Tottenham have got some, if I look at Tottenham's recent results, actually they've been in terrible form. Look at that. Tottenham have had those kind of big wins though. They've had that like City, the Roma draw. Fulham's a fairly good draw. Rangers isn't a great result. They lost to Chelsea, lost to Bournemouth, but that was a barnstormer, and the Bournemouth one slightly different. So as much as they've not been in good form, as the phone shows, I actually think they've shown signs of being one of those teams that would damage us. And potentially, they show the kind of thing where it's like dominance in games. I don't know if we're the kind of team that you can dominate. I don't really think that's in the DNA of someone like Slot. But I do often wonder, maybe this is part of my conditioning from the Klopp era, whether we are sort of due a couple of games where we get taught a few lessons. Don't know if that is the Spurs game, but we'll see later. And obviously then we've got quite a run into Christmas. So you've got Leicester, West Ham, and then Manchester United on the other side of New Year. I just think, again, it's a good time for us to rest Mo Salah going into that period. And I think with Harvey Elliott coming back, it's a great time to get him out there. I also think in that front line, we probably should be bringing some more youth through. And as much as obviously got Ben Doak out at the moment, Ben Doak is like the classic game for him. You'd love to see him, but you wouldn't have him in that like rip-roaring form that he's on in Middlesbrough at the moment if he wasn't playing for Middlesbrough. So I'm going to say you put Harvey Elliott out there, and he's a slightly more creative inside player, gives Trent a little bit more room to whip a ball in from the outside, possibly also gives someone like Morton, like almost 2 10s in there, like in that like almost pre-season that we saw with Fabio Carvalho and Harvey Elliott. You might see more like a pre-season type role there. The only concern for me would be if we were to see someone like Darwin Nunez ahead of that. I think those two would be there to feed him. I wonder if Dan's is like either a late sub or he's someone who kind of plays in that role for Liverpool. And then I think we will probably see Cody Gakpo out there. I think you need a bagsman. I think you need someone who is consistently just going to be like, he's a gunner from a distance. He's a real sniper with that ball from the left, cutting inside. I love Gakpo, and I think you need someone that's going to just have a little bit of gravity on the field up front. Darwin's busy. His gravity is quite different to Gakpo. I think people get drawn towards him, create space behind, whereas Darwin's more like, oh, are we tracking that guy? We track it. That's slightly different for me. So, yeah, both those points stand up to me. I think that's a great starting 11 for Liverpool. I think it shows the strength and depth that a big side like Liverpool have got. I know there are a couple of people who wanted to see a few more of the youth guys coming through. Maybe we will see someone good out on the left like that. We recently signed that guy from Chelsea that I think I'd love to see a little bit more of. But, in a game like this, maybe, I don't know. And I also just think I've not really seen Slot interacting with the youth all that much yet. And we've had some very solid performers, but no one in there where I've really gone, oh, wow, like he brought this guy through. And I'm not saying you have to do that this early. I think you need time to obviously assess the squad. But he's probably had a little bit of time now to be able to look at these guys, work out who fits where, profile guys in the right way. And as much as they're not physically developed as Slot really does demand of his players, I think he still will give them a trial and let them get out there. You know, we saw Trey in pre-season. We saw Fabio Carvalho barely played after that. And, you know, we've recently heard the news, obviously, that Fabio was told, if Cody Gakpo goes on that pre-season, or whoever it was that would play out on the left, you're probably not going to even go on the pre-season. So, you know, we're seeing here that Slot is very good at slotting many different pieces into that midfield and the attacking areas. I think that's a real strength of his. And I just wonder if he can do that with the youth. A lot of people loved what Klopp did last year in the AFL Cup, especially in the final, where we played that youth. They were very gung-ho. Of course, the goal actually came in the end from a senior player scoring from a corner in Virgil van Dijk. But it was still great to see them putting Chelsea to the sword, being more fearless, not playing with the inhibitions that other people have when they're coming through, maybe with the pressure of a Premier League game or a Champions League game. With Liverpool, you know, really having a good run in the Premier League and in the Champions League so far, I kind of want to. I want to see some youth. I want to see a little bit of promise. And frankly, like, I'm open to losing games as a club. I don't think this takes away from our momentum. I think it just shows. This is the thing. Is like, you know, I've been speaking a lot on my other channel about Amorim and how he's come through. And obviously, the more I see him, the more I'm impressed by him. He talks a lot, and I speak a lot on that channel about pre-season. He's kind of in that period where he can test players. We've not really taken our foot off the gas more recently, in the sense that, and obviously we drew against Fulham, but I don't think it was because we took our foot off the gas. We've not really taken our foot off the gas more recently. And I think to be able to just sort of go, whoa, like, this is also a holistic exercise in bringing players through. And I think that is really valuable for a team like us. And just to remind us, like, there's more than just the starting 11 squad. Not really had that opportunity yet. We're not seeing Grav. We're not seeing McAllister. You know, we're probably not going to see Szoboszlai. You should hope not to in a game like this. And I think we will take a relatively strong bench, that if things do turn a little south, then maybe Salah does come on. Maybe Diaz, I think, is one of those options you throw on. I think you need people who can come on and just sort of be like a foot on the ball. That's what makes me think Curtis is a better, like, bench player as impact and insurance almost than the other way around. But maybe at the same time, Slot is that kind of guy who goes, well, it's another cup. It's not really the same. There's not really an equivalent, I don't think, in the Dutch league or in Holland, in the Netherlands. So, you know, I wonder how he's going to manage this. I wonder if he values it in any capacity, really. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And I will be covering the game tomorrow night after the match. I hope you enjoy the match. It is, again, like I said, I really enjoy pre-season feeling games, or those games where we can test out guys. Let me know what you're thinking overall of Liverpool at the moment. Lots more to come later this week. A little bit of a profile of some of the left backs that could possibly come in and be that guy down our left. Why am I leaning left? And I also think there's some other stuff on Slot's genius, and where I in particular, and I think this is the thing, is maybe Slot isn't willing to cede control in that way. He needs those players in midfield and in defence and obviously in attack who allow Liverpool to control the game. Maybe he's going to throw a couple of people in and see, what can you control? Are you able to control the ball in the way that a Grav or a McAllister allows us with Szoboszlai in midfield? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. How do we keep control if you have players who aren't necessarily the most dominant players? Mind you, I suppose some of those players wouldn't have really been considered dominant last season for Liverpool. So let me know in the comments below, and I'll chat to you guys in a little while. Bye.